standard test for writing non-GUI tests. Gemi is the library for writing unit tests that access GUI components. There's a version for Swing, there's a version for JavaFX. Okay. NetBeans offers an awful lot of functionality to help you writing code. So you can do an awful lot of auto-completion. And one of the things that I particularly like in NetBeans is when you write stuff, NetBeans is very defensive. So if you create a method and you haven't implemented it, if you ever call that method or anything, it will deliberately throw an exception that warns you that you haven't implemented it. So it's making it just that bit harder to write sloppy code. And it contains a large number of tools that allow you to test the code, which we'll show you shortly. Before I do that, let's just give you the quick overview of... Again, if you're on the Mac, it's over here. If you're on Windows, I think it's under Tools Options. But NetBeans has a huge number of configuration options. And one of the reasons for doing the NetCAT test program, which I mentioned earlier, is that when I started using NetBeans, I thought it lacked a certain number of functionality. Like, for example, you should be able to say, I'd like my braces to be same line, new line, and my conditional statements. Imports. Unfortunately, it won't solve the old arguments on what is the better code. But what it will do is it will allow you to get the IDE to automatically reformat your code according to certain code format. And what you can then also do is you can share it amongst other people because you can export the configuration from NetBeans. So it's possible to have a standard configuration that everyone in your team uses. And again, you can see all of the changes there, so you can see exactly how it sets it up. Code completion, and I should have shown you as well. Notice it says Java, it also says C, C++. No, there's no formatting rules for a JavaScript. Apparently there is, and you can set them. So there you can choose, and again you can choose a number of spaces, you can choose whether you have tabs, whether you have spaces. And the NetBeans formatting functions will apply all of this to your code. So if you have particularly strong views, you can take all of the code into the repository, reformat it, and then put it back out to annoy people. So, huge amount of functionality there. I haven't got time to cover it all. The one I'd like to show you, Keymap. So again, if you're coming from a different platform, if you're using IDEA or Eclipse or Vi, you can actually change keyboard shortcuts to the same set as there. And if there's a keyboard shortcut you don't like, or missing, for example, I use Indent a lot. And Indent currently has no keyboard shortcut. So I can actually add my own. I can search the keyboard shortcut to see whether anyone else has allocated it, and I can reallocate it. So you can very flexibly set up NetBeans to run with the Eclipse settings, the IDEA settings, or the Vi settings if you just want to run it from the keyboard. So if you're familiar with a set of keyboard settings, you don't need to relearn. Okay, so that allows us to configure the code nicely. NetBeans auto help code completion pops up. And again, it's code sensitive, so it will come up with suitable suggestions. Now, I can never remember public static main. I'm going to put that in. And again, it's even put the closing bracket in for me. So let's create They are the NetBeans hints, and they are configurable. And sometimes you will ignore them, sometimes you will accept them. Okay, so we have a new valve, and I'd also like a Boolean. So let's have set. Okay, and immediately there's a pop-up there. So would I like to encapsulate the field? Yes, I would like to encapsulate the field. So it's put the code there for me. It's added the Java docs correctly. Set it up nicely. So now let's create an instance of new valve. So again, I'm using control space. Okay, and again, it's put that in. Now I'm going to write some code. So I'm going to do a file f equals new file. Okay. F dot. Okay. And again, it's told me there's a problem. So there's now not just the code in the red line. So yes, I would like to import it. What it's now telling me is no constructor there. So again, go there for a space, and it'll give me a selection. Okay. So let's go there. And again, if I press return at that point, it's allowing me to auto-complete it. Okay, so I've now got the file. Okay, so I can now create a new file. Okay, and no, it still doesn't like something. Okay, so again, because it's throwing an exception, it's giving me the choice to add an exception to the public constructor, surround it with a try-catch, surround the block, and so forth. So it's making it very easy for me to write code, and it's adding sensible defaults at every point. Okay, and okay, so now let's do. Let's have a. Okay, so again, it's detected. There's a method there. So let's create a method, and let's go down. And again, it's automatically set it up defensively. So I actually have to physically get it to work. So I can't write sloppy code and then find that I can't understand why it doesn't work. And then, obviously I left my Java when before Java 5 came out, so I can never remember the for loops. So that's a new for loop. And again, notice there's abbreviations as well. So if you're more of a keyboard person, you can see the keyboard shortcuts there. So it's making it much faster for me to write all the boilerplate code that I would need to develop a project. Okay, so not only will it let us write the code, but it will also let us examine the code. So there are several tools included in NetBeans that will allow us to see how good our code is. Gurjan mentioned them briefly earlier, and they are hidden in different places. If I go to refactor, there is a function called inspect and transform. If I go to source, there is a function called inspect. These offer slightly different functionality. It took me a while to tweak the difference, but if it can automatically code correct your code, it's in inspect and transform. If it can warn you, but will not be able to fix the code itself, it will be in inspect. So when you look at the list of options, you'll see there are different ones. So let's go here. Let's go to, and it's also context sensitive again. So if I choose a level, it'll just run it on a directory or a file. And it's quick as well. So here it is. And it will offer me a context. I can choose a different context. It will offer me the chance to either have a set of configurations, which I can manage. Okay, so I can have all of the rules set up. And they'll be different from this, from the inspect. It also has a set of pre-built functions. So I could, for example, update the code to Java to JDK8, and it does a nice job of spotting, as Gurjan said earlier, in your classes, replacing them, tidying up the code. Right? So if you wanted, for example, to update it to Java 5, take all of your laborious for int I equals loops and change them into for each loops. And it can organize imports. You can also run just a single inspection. So here, for example, you can run compare string. Because we all know that when we do a string comparison, we use dot equals, not equals equals, or does not equal. And check. When you are running any form of code inspection on the code, whether it's the Java hints, find bugs, other tools like PMD, I have two pieces of advice for you. The first first piece of advice is don't run it on the default settings, because what will happen is you'll get a printout that says you have 37,000 errors in your code, and you'll become obsessed about the fact that the default setting insists that you have braces on the next line of your if statements. So 36,500 of those errors are actually because you've got a brace on the wrong line. So start with an empty set, pick the important rules, so things like dot equals, and what we do is we've been working steadily towards them. So we implement a few rules each week, we gradually move towards the code. That also means you don't become obsessive with the fact that you've got to fix every single rule, because some of those rules are pure semantic choices, some of them don't matter. You need to balance actually writing code from actually just refactoring code. The other piece of advice I have is when you run these rules on your code for the first time, you will be horrified at how many silly comments you have put that when you look at the history function are under your name. So if you're going to introduce this to your organization, before you stand up and show them, run the rules on your code first and take out all of those silly little mistakes. Otherwise you can guarantee that the first demo, the first error you find will be because you've got a string does not equal or equals another string value. But if you set them up over time, they do a really nice job, and they are very quick as well. This is 350,000 lines of code, and it runs in a couple of seconds. So again, we've got inspect and transform. NetBeans have also integrated the findbugs tool, which is a set of known rules which will run on it. And you've also got the ability to update the code, and you've got the inspect rules. And again, you will see a lot of the headings are similar, but the actual rules that you will see are different for each. You can also search them. So start making use of them, but don't put them. You see findbugs is under inspect because it will find the errors, but it won't be able to correct them. Okay? So switch them on gradually, make use of them, choose the ones that make most sense to your organization. There are other tools as well that provide code comparisons. And quite often they even agree with each other. The particular one that I'd like to cover is PMD. We're talking about code quality. Now PMD I currently haven't got installed on my machine, and I have deliberately not installed it because I wanted to show you how to get it. So some things NetBeans ships with or installed, some things you have to download manually from the NetBeans plugin portal, and some things they include in their core options. So let's go here to see whether the IT gods are prepared to let me. So again, I've got installed plugins. I've got plugins that I might have downloaded to install myself. I've got, so those are the installed ones, and I've also got available plugins. So there's another tool called PMD. Again, I tend to use Easy PMD. Again, we've got information window. So what I've now done is I've selected one plugin, and I have to accept license agreements. Okay, so that's a two-way plugin. So your internet speed is a lot better than Java 1. It doesn't need to be tested in Java 1. And then I need to do a reboot. And what I should now do is when I go back to NetBeans tool, I will find there's an additional option in preferences. And this is quite common for a lot of plugins. It's now, the sharp-eyed of you will have noticed there's a new one there called Easy PMD. So PMD is another code checking rule. It works differently from findbugs, it works differently from the hints. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, they're all easily integrated into NetBeans, so you can use all of them depending on which ones you want to use. So PMD is more about rule sense, and PMD will put data down here in the action window. Again, what I can do is I can choose which rules I want to see here. So I can get the PMD hints, and again, it will put them as little dots, similar to the NetBeans hints there. There's an additional plugin as well called Style Check, which is a new plugin from Google. Again, something that we try to take importantly, but you can become obsessive about code quality. You can become over-obsessive about code quality. But But what's also nice with these is they run inside NetBeans, and they also can run on a standard continuous build. So you can have the same rules. You can actually find a rule that you want to implement. You can run through it in NetBeans, so you can fix all the cases that will break it. Then you can set it up in your continuous integration, and you'll never accidentally set a string wrong. It was quite a shock for my development team, because the first time we started implementing this, we added things like unused imports, and suddenly they would do a code commit, and they'd get all of these emails back telling them they'd broken the build because they got java.io or something and they deleted the file entry. But if you build it over time, it will lead to better quality code. And that's, as you can see, the action sets for PMD. Okay, the last thing I'd like to talk about, which is my excuse to put my cat picture up, is the NetCAT program, which I got involved in NetBeans 7.4. So NetBeans is developed by Oracle, and Oracle has a big team of engineers. There are also a lot of people outside Oracle who don't work for Oracle. So I don't get paid by Oracle. I have a day job. I need to write software to pay for my living. Oracle pays me nothing. In fact, I pay Oracle for the privilege of going to Java 1. So, but what Oracle also does is they only have limited facilities. And also their programmers will work in a certain way. So when they're coming out to a release for the next version of NetBeans, they will have the NetCAT program. The NetCAT program is open to anyone. So invitations will appear in NetBeans, you can sign up for it. And what happens is you will be given access to a build that isn't commonly available, and they will ask you to test some stuff. I could tell you about how you should selflessly do this for the good of the planet and the community, but I'm not going to. I'm going to give you some very selfish reasons why it's a really good idea to involve yourself. First of all, you get this really cool t-shirt. Secondly, in my career as a software developer, I've always been a bit of a magpie. So when I look at how other companies do stuff, I pick what works, what I think is good, and then I drop the rest. So it's a chance to see how Oracle tests their software. You also suddenly find you get all of these emails from very famous people you've never heard of, who want to know what you think, and they want to know all about it. And when you go to conferences and stuff, they know who you are. And it also means, and they also want to hear what doesn't work. So if you use a tool in a certain way, I can guarantee you probably use it slightly differently with a different set of plugins to the way that has been tested. So if you test it and there's a performance issue, you've got the whole Oracle team waiting on your words so that you know that when the next version of NetBeans comes out, it will work the way you want it to work because you told them what was wrong, and they will go away and fix it as a priority. The other important thing is a lot of people coming into the software industry from education, they have no experience. They don't know anything about code, they have nothing to talk about. If you get involved in the NetCAT program, it's given you something which you can suddenly turn around and say, I saw how NetBeans developed the software. The fact that the search and replace works in NetBeans 8 is because I spotted it was broken. So it allows you to gain experience and break that circle. But the most selfish reason is because if you are using NetBeans every day to earn your living, you want the thing to work reliably, robustly, the way you use it. And that NetBeans project, the NetCAT program is a way to get, to make sure that happens for you. So I would recommend the NetBeans program for purely selfish reasons and a really cool training t-shirt. You'll be pleased to hear that's the end of my talk. The obvious website link, NetBeans. I've talked about our PDF conversion. We actually have a free PDF to HTML5 converter, which is online, which actually we built on top of Glassfish using NetBeans. So if you want to see what NetBeans can do, or if you want to just convert PDFs to HTML5 for free, it's there. We write a lot on our blog about Java effects, NetBeans. We have a NetBeans plugin. I'll probably do a show write-up, so that's our blog. And as I say, I'm here all today. Please come and chat to me. Anything that happened before 1500, NetBeans, Java effects, PDF. And I'd just like to say thank you for coming to NetBeans UK first day. Thank you very much.